The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was quiet except for the soft hum of translation devices. 47 different species sat in their special chairs, each designed for their unique bodies. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and a few looked like walking crystals that sparkled in the artificial light. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood at the center podium. He was 54 years old and had worked for the council for 23 years. His dark hair showed gray streaks and his brown eyes looked tired. Today, like every day for the past month, something felt different about him. The human colonies report steady growth, Hyunwoo said into the microphone. His voice was calm and professional. Trade routes remain stable. Our mining operations on Kepler 442b have increased output by 12%. Chancellor Vextai listened from his high seat. The insect-like alien had been leading the council for over 200 years. His forearms moved constantly, and his large compound eyes missed nothing. Today, however, he noticed that Hyunwoo seemed distant, like he was reading from a script instead of sharing news about his people. Dr. Yoonji Park sat in the human section, taking notes on her tablet. She was the council's top expert on how different species could work together. For 15 years, she had helped solve food problems across the galaxy. Her research had saved millions of lives. But today, her fingers moved slowly across the screen and she kept looking at the ceiling. General Bo Ram Lee sat behind them, wearing her blue uniform with its many medals. She never spoke much during these meetings, but her sharp eyes always watched everything. Today, she seemed to be memorizing faces as if she might not see them again. Our scientists have completed the final tests on the new crop rotation system, Dr. Yoonji said when her turn came. The data shows it will work on 93% of inhabited worlds. The complete research files have been uploaded to the council database. She paused for a moment, then added, "This concludes our agricultural development project." Several aliens shifted in their seats. The word concludes seemed odd. Dr. Yoonji always talked about the next phase, the next improvement, the next breakthrough. But today, she spoke like everything was finished. Minister Kang Ho, a tall blue alien from the Thessian system, raised one of his long arms. "Dr. Park, will your team continue working on the desert planet adaptations?" "All necessary information has been provided," she replied. "Any qualified team can continue the work using our research." The answer felt cold and formal. Dr. Yoonji usually got excited when talking about her projects. She would draw diagrams in the air with her hands and explain every detail. Today, she sat down quickly and stared at her tablet. Throughout the meeting, other council members gave their reports. The Krathari talked about their new mining equipment. The Saurids discussed their patrol routes. The hexapods shared updates about their exploration missions. Everything seemed normal, but a strange feeling filled the air. Hyunwoo stood up for his final statement. "Humanity continues to support the Council's goals of peace and cooperation," he said. "We are grateful for the opportunity to work alongside our galactic neighbors." Something in his voice made Vextai's antennae twitch. The words were right, but they sounded like a goodbye. The meeting ended at the usual time. Delegates began filing out, their various forms of movement creating a strange dance. Some walked, others slithered, and a few floated using anti-gravity devices. The humans gathered their belongings and left together, walking in a tight group. Vextai watched them go. In all his years of leading the council, he had learned to read body language across dozens of species. The humans moved differently today. Their shoulders were straight, their steps were firm, and they did not look back. That night, across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. The first sign came from the Outer Rim territories. Captain Yuki, a small reptilian saurid, was patrolling near the human colony on Titan 7. His ship's sensors showed the usual readings: atmospheric processors working normally, city lights glowing in regular patterns, and shipping lanes busy with traffic. Then, between one sensor sweep and the next, everything vanished. "What happened to the colony?" Yuki asked his crew. His navigation officer, a nervous young saurid named Kess, checked the instruments 3 times. "Sir, the sensors show empty space, no structures, no ships, no life signs." That's impossible, Yuki said. Run a full diagnostic. While Yuki's crew worked frantically to fix what they thought was broken equipment, the same thing was happening everywhere. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were disappearing from sensors. Not destroyed, just gone, as if they had never existed. On the trading station at Wolf 359, automated cargo ships arrived on schedule to deliver goods. But when they opened their holds, the ships were empty. The human crews had vanished, taking their cargo with them. At the research facility on Proxima Centauri b, alien scientists tried to contact their human colleagues for the daily progress meeting. The communication arrays reached nothing but empty space. By morning, every human settlement, every human ship, and every human outpost had disappeared. 40 billion people had vanished without leaving a trace. Even their communication networks were gone, leaving only silence where human voices used to be. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Delegates shouted questions in dozens of languages. Translation devices overheated from trying to process so many panicked conversations at once. How do 40 billion people just disappear? Demanded General Thex, a warlike Chronari with battle scars covering his armor. Perhaps they were attacked, suggested Dr. Finn, a peaceful aquatic whose blue skin had turned pale with worry. By whom? Vextai asked. Our sensors detected no enemy ships, no weapons fire, no explosions. They simply left. Then the message arrived. It appeared simultaneously on every communication device in the galaxy in every language, translated perfectly. The voice belonged to Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim, but it was just audio. No video, no image, nothing to trace. To the members of the Galactic Council, the message began. Humanity thanks you for 127 years of cooperation. We have decided to withdraw from galactic affairs. Our departure is final. Please do not attempt to locate or contact us. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Farewell. The message ended with a soft click, leaving the council chamber in complete silence. Vextai stared at the empty seats where human delegates used to sit. For the first time in his long life, the ancient chancellor felt afraid, not of war or disaster, but of something much worse. The sudden realization that humanity had been more important than anyone had understood. The humans were gone, and they had taken something vital with them. The council just didn't know what it was yet. 3 months had passed since humanity disappeared, and Trade Minister Kang Ho was having the worst day of his 200-year career. The tall blue Thessian stood in his office, surrounded by floating screens showing red warning messages. Every trade route in his sector was failing. Ships were getting lost, cargo was spoiling, and communication between planets was breaking down. Sir, we've lost contact with another convoy, his assistant Mora said. She was a young Thessian with worried purple spots covering her neck. That's the 5th one this week. Kang Ho ran his long fingers through his silver hair. What happened to them? Their navigation system stopped working near the Vega system. They're drifting in space, unable to calculate a safe jump to hyperspace. This made no sense. Navigation systems had worked perfectly for centuries. The technology was old and reliable. Every species in the galaxy used the same basic principles to travel between stars. Send a rescue ship, Kang Ho ordered. Sir, our rescue ships are having the same problems. Their computers can't plot safe courses either. Kang Ho felt his 4 hearts skip a beat. How could every ship in space suddenly forget how to navigate? He opened his personal files and searched for the original navigation protocols. What he found made him sink into his chair with shock. The basic star maps that every species used had been created by humans 50 years ago. But that wasn't the surprising part. The surprising part was the update logs. Every single day for the past 50 years, human computers had been making tiny corrections to those maps. They adjusted for stellar drift, updated planetary positions, and corrected for cosmic phenomena that affected space travel. These updates were so small and automatic that no one had noticed them happening until they stopped. Now ships throughout the galaxy were using maps that were 3 months out of date. In the vastness of space, even tiny errors could send a ship millions of kilometers off course. Kang Ho called an emergency meeting with his department heads. When they gathered around the conference table, their faces showed the same confusion and worry he felt. How did we not know about these updates? Asked Director Zoss, a crystal-like being whose body glowed dim orange when he was upset. The humans never mentioned them, Kang Ho replied. They just did it. Quietly. Every day for 50 years. Meanwhile, in a different part of the galaxy, Commander Yuki was facing his own crisis. The small Saurid officer stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, watching his crew try to fix their weapon systems. Report, he ordered. Sir, the plasma cannons won't charge properly, said his weapons officer. The targeting computer keeps showing error messages. What kind of errors? It says the encryption protocols are outdated. The system can't verify. If our weapons are authorized for use, Yuki frowned. Their weapons had worked fine 3 months ago. Nothing had changed, except humanity was gone. He accessed the military database and found the problem. All weapon systems in the galaxy used security codes created by human programmers. These codes prevented accidents and stopped unauthorized weapons use. Every day, human systems had generated new codes and sent them throughout the galaxy. But for 3 months, no new codes had been created. Now their weapons were locked down by their own security systems. Sir, his communications officer called out, I'm getting similar reports from ships across the sector. Nobody's weapons work properly anymore. The Saurid military prided itself on being the strongest fighting force in the galaxy. Their ships were fast, their weapons were powerful, and their tactics were clever. But now they couldn't even fire their guns. Back on the council station, Dr. Voss was making a disturbing discovery in the archives. The elderly hexapod had 6 arms and loved to dig through old files. Today, she was researching what humans had actually done during their time with the council. Chancellor Vexistai, she called over the communication system. You need to see this. The insect-like leader arrived at the archives within minutes. What have you found? Dr. Voss gestured with 4 of her arms at the screens surrounding them. I've been reviewing human contributions to council projects. Look at this. The screen showed hundreds of files. Human research on terraforming, human solutions to energy problems, human designs for communication systems, human programs for food distribution, human methods for waste recycling. They were involved in everything, Dr. Voss said. But look at how their contributions were recorded. Vextai read the files more carefully. In every official report, human work was listed as additional support or technical assistance. Their names appeared in small print at the bottom of documents. Their solutions were described as modifications to existing systems. We made it look like they were helping us, Vextai realized, but they were doing most of the actual work. There's more, Dr. Voss said. She opened another set of files. Do you remember the food shortage on Kepler 438b 5 years ago? Of course. We solved it by improving their farming methods. Look at who actually solved it. The files showed the truth. Dr. Yoonji Park had spent 8 months on Kepler 438b, living in basic shelters and eating emergency rations. She had tested soil samples, studied weather patterns, and developed new crops that could grow in the planet's harsh conditions. Her work had saved 3 million lives, but the official report said, Council agricultural team successfully addressed food distribution issues with enhanced farming protocols. Dr. Yoonji's name appeared once in a list of 20 contributors. Vextai felt sick. Show me more. File after file revealed the same pattern. Humans had solved problems, created technologies, and prevented disasters, but they had never demanded credit. They had never insisted on recognition. They had simply done the work and let others take the glory. How many crises did they handle without us even knowing? Vextai asked. Dr. Voss pulled up another file. According to this, quite a few. Look at this report from Dr. Mi-young Cho. The file was marked Classified Human Eyes Only. Dr. Voss had only found it because the human security systems had shut down when humanity disappeared. Dr. Mi-young Cho had been an archaeologist who studied ancient ruins. According to her reports, she had found evidence of 17 different species that had once been part of galactic civilization, but had mysteriously vanished. Each species had left behind advanced technology and signs of a highly developed culture, but they were all gone now. Her final report, written just 6 months before humanity disappeared, contained a chilling conclusion. Pattern analysis suggests these species did not die out or get destroyed. Archaeological evidence indicates controlled departure. Recommendation: begin preparation for similar transition. They knew they were going to leave, Vextai whispered, and they spent months preparing. Dr. Voss added, "Look at the dates on these files. Humans were quietly finishing projects, transferring knowledge, and cleaning up loose ends for almost a year before they left." The Chancellor felt his compound eyes focus on a terrible truth. Humanity hadn't left in anger or panic. They had planned their departure carefully, making sure their work was complete and their responsibilities were handled. They had been saying goodbye for months, and nobody had noticed. As if to emphasize the point, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Emergency messages flashed on every screen. Critical system failure, life support malfunction, all personnel to emergency stations. Vextai and Dr. Voss ran toward the control center. When they arrived, they found chaos. Engineers from a dozen species were working frantically at control panels. "What's happening?" Vextai demanded. Chief Engineer Krex, a 4-armed mantid, looked up from his instruments. "Sir, the atmospheric processors are failing. The backup systems aren't responding. We're losing life support throughout the station." "How is that possible?" "These systems were built to last for centuries." "Sir," Krex said quietly, "the diagnostic programs that monitor these systems were written by humans. They've been automatically fixing small problems for decades. Now those programs are gone, and we're seeing 50 years of accumulated maintenance issues all at once." The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't just been members of the Galactic Council. They had been its invisible foundation, quietly, holding everything together while everyone else took credit for the success. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was starting to fall apart. The search fleet was the largest in galactic history. 500 ships from 30 different species spread across the galaxy, looking for any trace of humanity. Chancellor Vextai had given them unlimited resources and a simple mission: find out where the humans went. Investigator Kixmolt led the main search team. The 6-limbed hexapod was famous for solving impossible cases. Her keen mind and patient nature had helped her uncover secrets that had been hidden for centuries. But this case was different from anything she had faced before. "Sir?" Her assistant, Jack, called from the sensor station. "We're approaching Earth." Kixmolt moved to the viewing screen with her careful, deliberate walk. Earth hung in space ahead of them, blue and white and beautiful. It looked exactly as it had in the old files, except for one important difference. "Where are the cities?" Jack asked. The planet below showed no signs of human civilization. No lights at night, no satellites in orbit, no massive structures that had once housed billions of people. Earth looked like a pristine world that had never been touched by intelligence. "Take us down," Kixmolt ordered. Their ship landed where New York City used to be. According to the records, this had been one of Earth's greatest cities, home to 20 million humans. Now it was a vast forest filled with trees that looked centuries old. Kixmolt and her team walked through the woods with their scanning equipment. The trees were healthy and strong. Animals moved through the underbrush without fear. Streams ran clear and clean. But there was no trace of concrete, metal, or plastic anywhere. "This is impossible," said Dr. Nex, the team's expert on planetary engineering. "Cities don't just disappear. Even if you demolished every building, you'd still find foundations, sewage systems, buried cables. There should be evidence of civilization everywhere, but their scanners found nothing artificial at all." "Sir," called Specialist Rin from deeper in the forest, "you need to see this." Kixmolt followed the young officer to a small clearing. In the center stood a single structure, a simple stone monument about 2 meters tall. Carved into its surface were words in the common galactic language: "To those who come after, we restored what we changed, healed what we harmed, and returned what we borrowed. The Earth remembers her children with love. May you learn to care for your worlds as we learn to care for ours." Below the words was a date, 3 days before humanity disappeared. The search teams found similar monuments on every human world they visited. Mars, terraformed over centuries, was now a red desert again, but somehow it was alive with native plants that had never existed before. The ocean world showed pristine seas filled with creatures that looked both ancient and new. It's like they undid everything, Dr. Neck said during a team meeting. But that's impossible. You can't reverse terraforming. You can't make cities disappear without a trace. The energy required would be enormous. Unless, Kixmolt said slowly, they had technology we never knew about. That thought led them to investigate human research facilities. These proved even more mysterious than their colonies. On a small moon in the Alpha Centauri system, they found a massive underground complex that had been hidden beneath a mining operation. The tunnels went deep into the moon's core, filled with equipment that none of the search team could identify. "What is this place?" asked Captain Dex, the team's military advisor. The walls were covered with charts and diagrams that looked like physics equations, but they used mathematical symbols that weren't in any galactic database. Huge machines filled caverns that stretched beyond their lights. Everything was perfectly preserved as if the humans had left just moments before. In the central chamber, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. It was a massive sphere, 30 meters across, made of some kind of crystalline material that seemed to shift and glow with its own inner light. Around it, dozens of smaller devices hummed with energy. Holographic displays showed information in human writing. "Can anyone read this?" Kixmolt asked. Dr. Zara, a linguistic expert, stepped forward. She had studied human languages for decades. "Some of it," she said hesitantly. "This word means consciousness, this one is transfer, and this—" She paused, looking confused. "This seems to say dimensional bridge." The implications were staggering. While the galaxy had been focused on faster ships and better weapons, humans had apparently been working on technology that could manipulate space and time itself. In another chamber, they found archived video logs. The recordings showed human scientists working with equipment that seemed to bend reality around it. In one video, a researcher named Engineer Haiwan demonstrated something called a matter reorganizer that could change solid rock into water and back again. "The integration protocol is showing promising results," she said in the recording. "We can now transfer individual consciousness to quantum substrates while maintaining full personality and memory. The collective network remains stable with over 10,000 participants." The recording ended abruptly. 10,000 participants? Captain Dex repeated. Participants in what? They found part of the answer in the personal logs of Scout Captain Tai Hyun. His final entries painted a picture of growing sadness among humans throughout the galaxy. Another council meeting today. He had recorded 6 months before humanity disappeared. "We presented the solution to the energy crisis in the Rigel system. Took us 3 years to develop. The council voted to implement it immediately and gave full credit to Chancellor Vextai for inspiring innovative thinking." A later entry was more bitter. "First contact with the Zephyrian species went well. We spent 2 months learning their language and customs, then served as translators during negotiations. The final treaty lists the Thessian Diplomatic Corps as the primary contact team. Our names aren't mentioned anywhere." His last entry was heartbreaking. "Dr. Mi-young was right about the pattern. Advanced species don't get destroyed or conquered. They just leave. When you give everything and receive nothing in return, when your contributions are ignored and your sacrifices forgotten, staying becomes impossible. We've been the galaxy's servants for over a century. Maybe it's time to stop serving people who don't even see us." But the most shocking discovery came when they found the defense logs. Hidden in encrypted files that had been automatically deleted when humanity left, they discovered records of threats the Council had never known existed. Space monsters from between dimensions, reality storms that could tear apart planets, ancient machines left by dead civilizations that would activate without warning. The logs showed that humanity had been fighting these threats for decades. They had built hidden defense networks throughout the galaxy. They had developed weapons that could destroy cosmic horrors. They had sacrificed ships and crew members to protect worlds that never knew they were in danger. Look at this, Dr. Zara said, translating one of the final reports. 3 months before they left, humans fought something called a void kraken near the Vega system. They lost 12 ships and 300 people, but they stopped it from reaching the inhabited planets. The Vega system has 4 billion people, Captain Dex said quietly. Had, Kixmolt corrected. If humanity hadn't stopped that attack, those people would be dead. And no one would ever have known why. The search teams worked for months, but they never found a single living human. What they found instead was evidence of a species that had been far more advanced and far more important than anyone had realized. Humans had been holding the galaxy together with technology, protecting it with sacrifice, and improving it with innovation, all while asking for nothing in return except the chance to help. When Kixmolt returned to the council station, she carried with her the most complete report in galactic history. Thousands of pages of evidence showing humanity's true role in galactic civilization. But she also carried something else, the growing certainty that humanity hadn't just left the galaxy. They had transcended it. The question now was whether the galaxy could survive without them. The galaxy was dying. 6 months after humanity's departure, every major system was failing. Trade had collapsed. Ships drifted helplessly in space. Planets were running out of food. The Galactic Council met every day now, but their meetings accomplished nothing except spreading more panic. Then the sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. "Sir," the sensor operator called to Chancellor Vextai. "We're detecting a massive object approaching from outside the galaxy. It's huge." The thing that appeared on their screens defied understanding. It was larger than a star system, dark as empty space, and it moved with purpose. As it traveled, everything it touched simply disappeared. Stars, planets, entire solar systems, all consumed by the advancing darkness. "What is that thing?" whispered Dr. Voss. The answer came from their computers, searching through old databases. The match appeared on screen with a single word that made everyone in the control room stop breathing. Devourer. Ancient legends spoke of such creatures, cosmic predators that existed between galaxies, feeding on matter and energy. Most species dismissed them as myths, stories told to frighten children, but the sensors didn't lie. The Devourer was real, and it was coming straight for the galactic core. Emergency messages went out to every fleet in space. Within hours, the largest military force in galactic history was assembling near the galaxy's edge. Ships from 46 different species formed battle lines stretching across light years. General Thex commanded the combined fleet from his massive warcruiser. The scarred Chronari warrior had fought in dozens of battles and never lost. His confidence spread through the fleet like wildfire. "This creature may be large," he announced over the communication channels, "but we have the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. We have shields that can stop anything. We have the combined might of 46 civilizations. Nothing can stand against us." The first battle began when the Devourer reached the outer systems. 5,000 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could melt asteroids, missiles that could crack moons, and particle weapons that could tear apart matter itself. All focused on the approaching darkness. The weapons had no effect at all. The Devourer absorbed every attack like a sponge soaking up water. Worse, it seemed to grow larger with each blast of energy that hit it. The creature didn't even slow down. "Fall back to defensive position 2, General Thex ordered, but his voice had lost its confidence. The retreat became a disaster when the Devourer extended tentacles of pure darkness toward the fleeing ships. Any vessel touched by those tendrils disappeared instantly, crew and all. Within an hour, half the fleet was gone. The survivors regrouped at the next defensive line, but panic was spreading through their ranks. Officers who had trained for decades couldn't understand what they were facing. Their weapons were useless, their shields offered no protection, and their enemies seemed unstoppable. "Sir," Admiral Kest reported to the Council, "we need to evacuate the outer rim immediately. At current speed, the Devourer will reach inhabited systems within days." Evacuation ships launched from 100 worlds, but there was nowhere to run. The creature was too large and too fast. Billions of people faced certain death, and their governments could do nothing to save them. In desperation, Chancellor Vextai ordered the archives to be searched for any information about the Devourer. What they found made a terrible situation even worse. "Sir," Dr. Voss reported, "I found references to these creatures in the oldest files. According to legend, 3 Devourers have attacked this galaxy in the past 1,000,000 years. What happened to them?" The records are unclear, but each attack ended suddenly. The creatures simply left. Why? Dr. Voss hesitated before answering. The legends say they were defeated by the Guardians, beings of pure energy who existed between the stars. More myths, General Thex said dismissively. Maybe not, Dr. Voss replied. She opened another file. I found human military records that were hidden behind quantum encryption. It took our best computers 6 days to break the code. The files that appeared on screen made everyone stare in shock. Military reports written in precise human language, describing battles with creatures that matched the ancient legends perfectly. The third Void Kraken was terminated after 17 hours of engagement, read one report signed by Admiral Sujin. Casualties: USS Harmony, USS Perseverance, USS Hope. Total personnel lost: 847. Recommend immediate deployment of quantum Lance batteries to sectors 712 for early detection of similar entities. Another report dated just 2 years earlier was even more direct. Devourer-class entity eliminated using concentrated dimensional disruptor array. Warning: entity showed adaptation to conventional weapons. Recommend development of reality anchor. Technology for future encounters. They fought these things before, Vextai whispered. Dr. Voss opened more files. Battle reports, casualty lists, technical specifications for weapons that sounded impossible. Humans had been fighting cosmic horrors for decades while the rest of the galaxy went about their daily business, never knowing they were protected. Look at this, Dr. Voss said, highlighting a section of text. According to these records, humans detected this same Devourer 3 years ago. They've been tracking its approach and preparing defenses. What defenses? The answer came from archived video messages. Admiral Sujin appeared on screen, her dark hair streaked with gray and her uniform bearing medals no one recognized. Behind her, massive machines hummed with energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. If you're watching this message, then humanity has departed, and the Devourer has arrived on schedule, she said calmly. We calculated its arrival time based on gravitational disturbances in the outer void. You have approximately 72 hours before it reaches the first inhabited systems. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We could have destroyed it 3 years ago, but doing so would have revealed our true capabilities to species that preferred to see us as primitive newcomers. We chose instead to monitor and prepare. The image changed to show technical diagrams of weapons beyond galactic science, devices that could manipulate space-time itself, generators that drew power from dimensional barriers, and targeting systems that could track enemies across multiple realities. These weapons required the combined consciousness of our entire species to operate, Admiral Sujin continued. We had to transcend physical form to merge our minds with the quantum substrate of space itself. In your terms, we became energy, beings. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed incredible technology, they had evolved beyond physical existence to use it. We built these defenses to protect the galaxy we once called home, the Admiral's message continued, but we will not use them to save people who never valued our sacrifices. The weapons exist, the power sources are charged, the targeting data is complete. Whether they activate depends entirely on you. The message ended with coordinates and access codes. Chancellor Vextai stared at the screen long after the Admiral's image disappeared. Around him, his advisors argued about whether the human claims could be real. But he wasn't listening. He was remembering every council meeting where humans had offered help and been ignored. Every crisis they had solved while others took credit. Every sacrifice they had made while being treated as junior partners in their own galaxy. How many times did we dismiss their warnings? He asked quietly. Sir, Dr. Voss replied. How many times did they try to tell us about these threats? How many times did we ignore them because we thought we knew better? The truth was painful but clear. Humans had tried to prepare the galaxy for dangers beyond imagination. They had shared their knowledge, offered their protection, and sacrificed their lives. In return, they had been treated as helpful assistants rather than the advanced civilization they truly were. Now the galaxy faced extinction, and only human technology could save it. But first, the Council would have to do something they had never done before. Admit they had been wrong about humanity. The Devourer was still approaching, and time was running out. The Devourer was only 18 hours away from the first inhabited system when Chancellor Vextai made the hardest decision of his long life. Build the beacon, he ordered. The quantum communication device took 12 hours to construct, using technology that pushed every species' understanding to its limit. It was designed to punch through the barriers between dimensions, a desperate attempt to contact humanity in whatever realm they now existed. As the final connections were made, evacuation ships continued to flee from the outer systems. Billions of beings packed into cargo holds trying to escape the advancing darkness. But everyone knew there was nowhere to run. The Devourer was too fast, too large, and too hungry. Beacon is ready, sir, reported Chief Engineer Krex. Vextai stood before the massive transmission array, knowing that this message might be the last thing he ever sent. Around him, representatives from every council species waited in silence. For once, there were no arguments, no politics, no pride. Only fear and the faint hope that humanity might still care enough to listen. Begin transmission, Vextai ordered. The beacon activated with a sound like reality tearing. Energy patterns that existed in 17 different dimensions focused into a single point, reaching across space and time toward whatever humanity had become. For long minutes there was no response. Then faintly, a voice came through the static. I hear you. The voice belonged to Chairman Junseo, one of humanity's final leaders before they transcended. But it sounded distant, as if speaking from very far away. We need your help, Vextai said simply. Now you need our help, Junseo replied. Where were you when we needed yours? The words cut like ice. Around the communication chamber, alien dignitaries shifted uncomfortably. They all knew the answer to that question. We were wrong, Vextai admitted. We took your contributions for granted. We ignored your sacrifices. We treated you as servants instead of partners. You treated us as invisible, Junseo corrected. For 127 years we solved your problems, protected your worlds, and improved your lives. In return, you gave us polite thanks and forgot about us the next day. The transmission flickered, showing brief images of what humanity had become. Beings of pure energy, their consciousness spread across quantum fields that existed between dimensions. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like gods made of starlight. We loved this galaxy, Junseo continued. We loved its diversity, its potential, its endless possibilities. We wanted to be part of something greater than ourselves. You were part of it, Dr. Voss said desperately. You were essential to everything we built. Essential but unacknowledged. Important but unappreciated. We gave everything we had and you never once said thank you. The Devourer's approach sensors showed 14 hours remaining. On the viewing screens, the cosmic predator had grown even larger, consuming matter from the space between stars. We're saying thank you now, Vextai said. Now that you're about to die. The harsh truth hung in the air like poison. Humanity was right. The Council had only recognized their value when it was too late to matter. You want us to save you, Junseo said. But why should we? You never saved us from anything. Not from loneliness, not from thankless service, not from watching everything we built get credited to others. Chancellor Vextai felt his ancient pride crumble away. In all his centuries of leadership, he had never had to beg for anything. But now, with extinction approaching, He had no choice. Because we were wrong, he said. Because we failed you. Because we're begging for forgiveness we don't deserve. Begging, Junseo repeated. The mighty Galactic Council is begging. Yes, the transmission fell silent for long minutes. When Junseo spoke again, his voice carried infinite sadness. Do you know what broke our hearts the most? It wasn't the lack of recognition. It wasn't even the way you dismissed our warnings about threats like the Devourer. It was the way you looked at us. How did we look at you? Like we didn't matter. Like we were just another species filling seats in your great hall. You had no idea that we were pouring our souls into protecting you. You never saw that every human who died defending this galaxy was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's love. Images flashed through the transmission. Human faces, young and old, smiling and serious. These were the people who had given their lives fighting cosmic horrors while the galaxy slept peacefully, never knowing they were protected. We transcended because staying hurt too much, Junseo explained. When you give your heart to something that doesn't love you back, eventually you have to save yourself by walking away. 12 hours until impact. What do you want from us? Vextai asked. Something we never got while we were here. Something we should have received but never did. Name it. Recognition. Not just for what we're about to do, but for what we already did. We want every species in this galaxy to know that humanity protected them for over a century. We want our sacrifices remembered. We want our dead honored. The Chancellor looked around the chamber at his fellow leaders. 46 different species all nodding in agreement. Done, he said. And something more. We want a promise that you'll do better. The next species that joins your council, the next civilization that offers help, treat them as partners, not servants. Value their contributions. Remember their names. I promise. Not just you. All of you. Every species must agree. One by one, the leaders of 46 civilizations stepped forward and made the same promise. Their voices echoed through the transmission, reaching across dimensional barriers to where humanity waited. Junseo was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed. It carried warmth that hadn't been there before. We can save you, he said. Our weapons still exist, powered by our collective consciousness. We can activate them from where we are now. Hope flared through the chamber. But understand this, we're not coming back. We've moved beyond the need for physical form, beyond the limitations of single lives. This is goodbye forever. We understand, Vextai said. Then watch. The transmission ended. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The Devourer continued its approach, dark and hungry and seemingly unstoppable. Then space itself began to sing. It started as a vibration so low that only the most sensitive instruments could detect it. But it grew quickly, becoming a harmonic resonance that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The stars themselves pulsed in rhythm, as if the galaxy had found its heartbeat. On the viewing screens, they saw the weapons humanity had built. Massive structures hidden in the void between stars, powered by energies that existed outside normal spacetime. They had been waiting for 3 years, dormant, but ready. Now they came alive. Beams of pure creation lanced out from 17 different positions converging on the Devourer. But these weren't weapons designed to destroy. They were tools of transformation, changing the cosmic predator at a fundamental level. The Devourer's hunger turned inward. Instead of consuming the galaxy, it began consuming itself. The dark tendrils that had devoured countless stars now fed on the creature's own mass. Within minutes, the vast entity collapsed into a single point of light. Then it was gone. The galaxy was safe. In the council chamber, 46 species stood in awed silence. They had just witnessed power beyond their comprehension, wielded by a species they had taken for granted. Are they still there? Dr. Voss asked quietly. Chancellor Vextai tried the communication beacon again, but found only silence. Humanity had kept their promise and departed forever. Sir, his aide called out, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The evacuation fleets want to know if it's safe to return home. Vextai nodded slowly. Tell them yes. Tell them they're safe because humanity protected them one last time. Should we tell them about everything? The Chancellor looked at the empty seats where human delegates had once sat. Soon, those seats would have monuments, not to the species that had left, but to the guardians who had never stopped protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Tell them everything, he ordered. Tell them about the threats humanity faced while we slept. Tell them about the sacrifices we never acknowledged. Tell them about the love we never deserved. He paused, feeling the weight of centuries of mistakes. And tell them that we will do better. We will remember. We will be worthy of the gift we were given. As news of humanity's final sacrifice spread through the galaxy, something changed in the great civilizations of space. Species that had competed for prestige began working together. Technologies were shared freely instead of hoarded. When new civilizations joined the Council, they were welcomed as partners from their first day. The human seats in the Great Hall remained empty, but they were never removed. Fresh flowers appeared there every day, a different species taking turns to honor the guardians who had loved them enough to save them, even after being forgotten. And sometimes, in the quiet moments between the stars, space itself seemed to hum with gentle music, as if humanity's love for the galaxy lingered on, watching over the civilizations they had died to protect. The Council had learned at last the difference between being served and being loved. They would not forget again.